Hello and welcome to the Barossa. Again, it's a beautiful day outside, about 22 degrees, and I'm inside cooking for you. Happily so, because I've just emptied my fridge. Emptied my fridge of some kind of, older mushrooms that I found in a bag right at the back. Tomato, that beautiful roasted tomato sauce that I adapted from Stephanie Alexander's recipe, my red capsicums, my veg from the garden. I had some sweet potato left from that roasted vegetable. So the only thing that I have started from fresh was the eggplant from my garden, which I'm cutting in in a different way today, because I want it to be, it's going to be part of this dish, which I'm going to call a lasagna without a sauce. So, and it's also without being able to buy or not having made lasagna sheets. But what I did buy, at least one of my granddaughters Lily brought for me, wonton wrappers with egg from the local supermarket Asian section, or an Asian deli. And these, they're a very, quick way to do rag pasta as well as wontons. But I'm going to use this, think of it as a lasagna kind of, it's going to be layers. So, let me see, I need to get the sweet potato. Sweet potato, I've said I prefer not to peel a vegetable if I can get away with it, but this is a bit manky, isn't it? That had been in the back of the fridge for probably 2 weeks, so the skin I wasn't going to use. So we've peeled and sliced quite thinly the sweet potato, because I want to roast that in the oven with the eggplant as well. Now, I have mentioned before, there's nothing quite like using a bread knife or serrated knife, I might say, to cut through eggplant. It just goes really, really well. Now, because I want these eggplant are wider than the sweet potato, but they will collapse on cooking. So I'll get them on first, because you'd be surprised how long it takes to get a beautiful colour on eggplant. Now, let me just put some oil in that dish. Was that the right dish? Perhaps not. I'm going to oil just on one side this time, and then when I turn them over, I'll oil the other side. I've done it different ways to show you. Other times I've oiled them both sides before I've put them on. But I guess it's my passive way of showing there is no absolutely right or wrong way. There are all sorts of alternatives. But I've put this I'm putting this in the highest oven, because it's the bottom side, the side to the tray, that will get the colour first. Then I'll turn it over. So that's it. I'm going to, let me see, a bit of olive oil and salt for the sweet potato. I won't bother to brush them, but I want them to get a lovely colour, because you know, sweet potato can be very sweet, but when you take it and get that sort of burnish, or some people might call burnt, on the edges, if you can get it that far, it gives another edge. So I've got my thinnest trays with absolutely no, the smallest lip on the trays that I have. I'm just going to put them there and see how many I can get on. Whoops. Now to some people it might never be a lasagna if there's no sauce, but not me. Okay, always make sure there's enough room so they don't poach. There's only a very small amount of oil and salt on here, and so I will put these into the really hot oven too, and I do want them to cook, but I want them to hold some shape. Now, even though I have really good ovens, by using both shelves, it's going to take longer to get that colour that I want. So I'll give you some indication as we continue, right? Now, for the rest, leftovers and spring onions. Now, these are the beautiful spring onions Al and Brenda gave me from the markets, the Sunday market they sent home. And so I have already trimmed. You'll see, normally, most cooks use just the white part of spring onion. I love the green part. Now I have cut some off, but I just wanted to show you, when you have something that's so fresh and beautiful, then you make the most of it. And the green part of the onion, when it's so young, is just truly lovely. So I'm going to chop those, and then I'll tell you about the other ingredients. This is emptying the fridge, remember? I'm going to saute the mushrooms and spring onions with some lemon thyme from the garden. It could be rosemary, you could use parsley, and if it were parsley, you would add it at, whoops, lemon thyme is quite fiddly to work with, but it's worth the trouble. Let me see. It's easier if you go strip it down. But it's a case of whatever you have. You could use fresh dill if you've got it in your garden. You could use coriander. It's chervil if you have that. Okay, so that is going to go when I pan fry the mushrooms and spring onions. Now I'm not going to show myself chopping spring onions because I'm always embarrassed by my knife work. I'll just show a very small amount. It's just years of working with my friend Simon Bright. No, I'm not going to show you. I'll do it afterwards when I tell you all the rest. Okay, so this is part and parcel. Red capsicum I have left over. That roasted tomato that I've mentioned. Now, the thing about both of those is we have colour and we also have softness and moisture. Because the egg wontons are not dry like a dried lasagna sheet, I'm not going to cook in advance, and because I don't have a sauce, I think this will work, but it's an idea I haven't tried, so you'll be the first to know if I bomb out, okay? Then, the other thing that was in the fridge as leftovers was the labneh. So, I mean, you can do all sorts of things with a lasagna. You can use ricotta, you can use Persian feta, but because I have labneh left over, and because I have this beautiful quark left over, I'm going to make a mixture of both. There is so much protein in this, both the quark particularly, but also in the labneh, and it will make it really luscious and moist and gooey with all the other veg. So let me just get the spring onions done and don't look. Okay, I'm ready to assemble. Now remember, these were all in the fridge, except for the eggplant in the garden. But instead of the sweet potato, it could be pumpkin, it could be parsnip, it could be white sweet potato, perhaps not turnip, it could be potato. So it's just a case of going with what you have. Now this, I'm going to be very interested if this works. But I have used these before, which are the wonton wrappers with egg. So, I should tell you, sometimes I would spray a tray with that extra virgin olive oil, as I've told you, but sometimes it just has to be butter. And this is one where it has to be butter, because remember, I've got no sauce here, and so it's got to be, there's got to be ooziness coming from somewhere. So here we go. We'll put these sheets, which are really very fine, on the base. The first base, I'll just take a bit of the, perhaps if I put my glasses on, I could see if there are two here. Where are my glasses? Okay, yes, there are two here. I have to tell you that these also make the best ravioli, because making a ravioli, making your own pasta, is great fun when you've got the grandchildren to help you, but the secret is how thin the pastry is. So these make a really, really beautiful ravioli. Whoops. Okay, I might just put one more up the side because I can. I'm just taking that excess flour off. Now, what I have here is I took every skerrick of what was left in the quark, which wasn't that much, 3/4 of a cup, and now I will put about equal quantity. I'm not being too fussed here because I could use all quark, I could use all ricotta, I could use all labneh, but it's about having exactly what I have in the fridge. Now, I'll just have a taste. They both have an acidity, and of course you have to remember that's what I love. Now this is where the eggplant had really good colour, but I don't have as much of that, so perhaps it won't go on the first layer. I'll put sweet potato on, oh, sorry, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm using a sweet potato layer first. There are no rules here. Sort of cooking I like, no rules. I'm going to use mushroom. I'll use perhaps half the mushroom. Mushroom and spring onion, lemon thyme. Then I will use the tomato next. And I'll do tomato on this layer, and I'll keep, because the tomato is lovely and kind of oozy, as is the mushroom, because keep on remembering, no sauce here. Okay. Oh, then really liberal amount. Doesn't that look great? Really spread this around. One more bit in here. I will add a bit of salt because there was no salt in this labneh. So a bit of salt, and then I'm going to have the next layer. The only fiddly bit here is separating these layers of the wonton wrappers, but they have to be wonton wrappers with egg. Now the other thing is I will freeze what I have left over. Sweet potato again. I've got quite a small dish when I think of it, so I can be much more generous. I won't use those bits because they don't look as pretty. Then I'm going to use the eggplant and I'm going to press it right down. Just one layer of eggplant. Oh, see, just made it. Really press down. But I have to have the capsicum. I've got all these things in the fridge, so I can't leave them behind. See, there's not going to be any room at all for, there's not going to be any room for a sauce, see? Even if I had made one. So that's nice and oozy there. And the mushroom, I can't leave any of this behind because I couldn't bear to still have it over. Okay, spread that right to the edge, and yet I still have to have one more lot of the quark and the labneh. Now that's not enough, but as I said, it wouldn't matter if it was all labneh, all quark, or all ricotta. So I will simply take a little bit more of the labneh left over. And yes, it's a messy job, but the best kind of messy job. And it's all because of the size of the bowl. I'm really packing it in here. Now normally, and I think I'll do it anyhow, you'd finish with a layer, the third layer of your lasagna sheets. One more piece. And then I'm going to brush with oil. All right, I've made a mess, but a little bit of oil. I ran out of a dish with the Parmesan, and that's about 1/4 cup of Parmesan I've used, and some lemon thyme. Now that may well burn, but my concept here is to cook it for about 20 minutes for all those flavors to develop. I'm suggesting put it on a tray, I'll put it in the oven, and now the oven is at 180 degrees. About 20 minutes I'm seeing. Oh, what a mess I have. Did I tell you I'm a messy cook? You can believe it now. 30 minutes in an oven at 180 degrees, and then to get some browning on top, put the grill on and put it in for another 5 minutes or so. However, if I have made that last layer without the pasta sheets, it would have browned so much more. But here is a confession. I realized minutes after I had it in the oven, I really needed to do that 30 minutes with the foil on top for it to sort of steam, and that is because those pasta sheets weren't cooked and I didn't want them just going crisp. So this is the kind of dish that you could make the day beforehand, you could leave in the fridge for days, and it will be better if I let it settle before I served it, because you can see it's just bubbling from the oven. But I'm not going to, am I? I want you to see that this is just a combination of all the good things that I happen to have in the fridge, and I'll just get my spoon down there. But there we are. just a little bit of lemon thyme or parsley, and let me just clean that up a bit. That last flourish of some salt, some extra virgin olive oil, and some pepper. We often have dinner that is just all vegetables or grains, but sometimes Colin refuses that, and this would go beautifully with a chicken breast that's been roasted in the oven, with a lamb chop from the barbecue. And you can see in here, if we look into the pot, all these lovely colours, all this lusciousness from the quark and the labneh, all the leftovers from the fridge. That's what makes it so exciting for me. I hate wasting anything, and I'm sure you do too.